Shiv, for the moment, many thanks for joining me. I'll come to my guests in just a moment, but there's another propaganda video that was released on Chinese social media site late last night. This is now a 45-second clip, a clip by China that shows the extent of its losses or lies or actions during the Galwan Valley clash on the 5th of May 2020. And you must look at these clips very carefully. It confirms that the Chinese side actually started pelting stones on the Indian soldiers, and the Chinese were at a height. The video then shows how the Chinese were unable to contain and control the situation, and some of their soldiers, they were swept away in the icy cold waters of Galwan. This video, though released by China on social media, clearly proves India's stand.
45 seconds of video footage, the latest propaganda installment from China on 2020's Galwan clash in Ladakh. A video positioned to project Chinese bravery in the face of Indian aggression in the Galwan Valley. But once again, the images reveal much more than the Chinese government perhaps intended. It opens with Indian soldiers dismantling a Chinese observation post which had violated the line of actual control in June last year. But in the very next sequence, for just 2 seconds, a dead giveaway. Chinese soldiers seen stone pelting from up one of the slopes. Pushed back by the Indian Army team, the propaganda video then shows PLA troops struggling in the freezing Galwan River. And then in the final flourish, a sequence capturing PLA troops being washed away by the Galwan River. But in the background, an earth-moving bulldozer, a confirmation that China was manipulating the path of the river to gain an advantage. The propaganda clip is an intended emotional backdrop to an interview with the family of Wang Zhuoran, one of the men China has acknowledged died in the clash. The propaganda video comes just 2 days after India and China held their 12th round of talks on the Ladakh standoff. Troop pullbacks have already happened at Galwan and the Pangong Lake. The two sides formally committed to expeditious troop pullback now from the Gogra Post friction point. But China has maintained a very rigid stance on Depsang in North Ladakh. There is skepticism on China's intentions, since there has been little or no forward movement in the friction areas along the line of actual control in eastern Ladakh since disengagement in Pangong in February this year. With India today also reporting that China has strengthened its positions in the depth areas away from the front lines, a long autumn and winter loom ahead. With the standoff showing no signs of winding down in any real manner, and with the new Galwan video, it's clear that the mind games and propaganda won't be winding down either. Bureau Report, India Today.
General Kulkarni and Ambassador Vishnu Prakash remain with me on the broadcast. General Kulkarni, what do you make of this propaganda video that's been released by, at least on Chinese social media, that shows perhaps their aggression and yet the agony they faced?
Gaurav, two things. Yes, there was a tent, and yes, the fast-flowing water, and a lot of people got swept into it. Having said that, let me tell you, it is on an army day of China that they intend releasing, because there was a tremendous amount of pressure that there was no respect shown by the Chinese to the soldiers who died. And they had a commanding officer of theirs who died in the Galwan clashes. Keeping that in mind, I think it was just primarily to ensure and to subside the kind of sentiment that have grown up, that in India, all said and done, all the Galwan soldiers were respected and the state gave them a state funeral. That did not happen in China. So at least on the occasion of the Army Day, they decided that it make a show of the whole thing, that this is what had happened, this is what. It's an absolutely propaganda. Much of the video seemed doctored, there is no denying the factor. But also, this is a bigger view by the Chinese to be able to subside the kind of sentiments that seem to have grown in China. Okay. The Chinese have shown total disrespect to the loss of life that occurred in Galwan. This is also an acceptance by the Chinese of the incident that has occurred. It also an acceptance of the fact that they have lost lives over there. But it is just with the view.
But China's accepted loss of initially 4 lives, subsequently they said 1 more life lost. Then there are some reports that seem to indicate they've lost 35 people. Some reports like the Russian TASS report said they'd lost more than 40 soldiers. But Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, in your appreciation, what's actually happening between India and China at this stage? 12 rounds of core commander level talks. They've disengaged where they were embarrassed and where they were compromised on the south bank of Pangong Tso or the north bank of Pangong Tso. But even here at Gogra, there is only an agreement in principle that they will withdraw. Whether they will or not, we do not know. Hot Spring, no withdrawal. Depsang, the issue remains a major challenge. What exactly is happening in your view?
Well, this is how China behaves. They will continue to play hardball. They will try to judge you. They will try to probe your defenses. They will try to tire you out. Why do you think talks last 12 to 14 hours? Because that is the whole effort, to see whether the opponent blinks. And in the meantime, they'll continue with the narrative. This video, for example, is just for the domestic audience, which does not have the benefit of insights that you are highlighting. The domestic audience has been fed with a lie that Wang Yi keeps on feeding to everybody, that it is Indian soldiers who provoked the clash. And Wang Yi has been going around to say that, China is a peaceful country. So that is the kind of narrative that they're building. But I don't think they're fooling anybody else in the world outside China. And we have to be prepared for the long haul. We have discussed it on your show. You've been highlighting it. I don't think that Chinese are in any mood, unless their feet are held to the fire, to leave in a hurry.
Are China's feet actually being held to fire? General Kulkarni, in your view, when you look at the manner in which the Chinese are building up in a very big way, both in Tibet and in Xinjiang, longer runways, opposite Daulat Beg Oldiar advanced landing ground, they are building a heliport on the other side. They're bringing in more rocket forces. They're bringing in more armor and RT. What is China planning in the long run? Are we holding China's feet to fire? If they think we are blinking, if that we'll blink, are we blinking? Or on the contrary, is our stance hardening even further?
See, with China, you have got to be able to deal with a position of strength. China always believes to subdue the enemy without a fight. And as much as pressure that they can put on India, they are attempting to put. But they know at the very sight that it is extremely difficult to dislodge Indian troops from such great heights which are being occupied by them. Fully acclimatized, and that is one reason why the Hans are unable to do it. And that is one reason why Xi Jinping is wanting Tibetans to join them. That is one reason why he's going about, for the first time in 30 years, the president of China is visiting the Tibet region only to be able to see for himself. A picture is worth 10,000 words. He wants to gauge and wants to test waters as to what actually is happening over there. At this point of time, but all said and done, we have to be vigilant. It is a long haul. Let's not get carried away by anything that the Chinese do. Chinese can't be trusted. We have to be alert, and that is the only way to deal with China, is from a position of strength, to make them feel insecure. But they will continue to build up with whatever. Okay. It could be S-400, it could be any amount of infrastructure that is coming up. That is, even though they may be about 150 to 200 kilometers behind the LAC, but the kind of infrastructure that has come up is adequate for effective in about 4 to 5 hours. And therefore, you cannot trust China. We have got to be vigilant. Sure. Surveillance has to be 24/7.
So what's India's message, Admiral, Ambassador Vishnu Prakash? What is India's message at a time where you have 4 warships going to South China Sea? How will China view this? Then Malabar happening in Western Pacific Ocean. Then joint exercises with Australia, or bilateral exercises with Vietnam and Indonesia, and other exercises with Japan.
Well, I think the message is very clear, Gaurav, and your colleague was talking about this is not the first time. As far as I recall, in May 2019,
yes,
our naval ships had gone and
that was with the US Navy, sir. Joint operations then with the US Navy.
With Japan, if I remember right, and Philippines. So yes, that was 2019. And China has been provoking us. If you remember, our naval ship vessel which had gone there was buzzed by the Chinese Navy at one point in time. I forget which year it was. They have been showing aggression towards all these countries in the South China Sea, be it Vietnam, Paracel Island, Spratly Islands, Scarborough Shoal, with Philippines, with Japan. And we are conveying that, look, if you force us, we too can play the same game. There's not going to be a cost-free thing. You cannot expect that you come into try to embarrass India or try to intimidate India. There is going to be a response to that. And the Quad, the foundation or the main agenda of Quad is maritime security, a free and open Indo-Pacific region, a coercion-free region. So I think the message is being conveyed to China. We all hope. Nobody wants conflict. Nobody wants to have tensions. So the effort is that China does see reason and back off this aggressive posture, but we'll have to wait and watch.
Okay.
But the message is that two can play the game. If pushed, two can play the game.
Very interesting. If push comes to shove, two can play the game, and that is why you have 4 Indian Navy warships going to South China Sea. They will also be in the Western Pacific, joint exercises, bilateral exercises, a lot more over the next 60 days that we'll be reporting here on India First. But what's also happening on ground in Ladakh, opposite Ladakh, 12 rounds of talks have happened. China continues with its very aggressive deployment. Now, satellite images accessed exclusively by India today seem to indicate that China is developing protected underground facilities. Now, some of these facilities are under construction. There is a high altitude airport that's coming up, and this airport and airfield is being touted as a future Chinese base for massive ambitions, not just here, but even Central Asia. Ankit Kumar with this India Today exclusive.
A brand new Chinese airbase, a base that began construction just before the India-China standoff began in Ladakh last year. In close proximity to the borders of Afghanistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, not to mention Ladakh. A base whose true intention is now becoming much, much clearer. Satellite images accessed by India today confirm that this base in Tashkurgan isn't just any airport by the Chinese. What they clearly reveal is a complex of underground facilities pointing to Chinese intentions in the region. These underground complexes are clearly intended to provide a level of concealment and protection to Chinese operations in this area. The first high-resolution commercial satellite imagery from Planet Labs confirms suspicions that this is a dual-use airport and not just a civilian one. Along with the underground facilities, construction on other parts of the airbase is also visible in the satellite images. Blacktopping of runways, construction of terminal areas can be clearly seen, along with the deployment of stone-crushing machines, land-moving equipment and construction trucks. Once complete next year, the airport will be able to accommodate 160,000 passengers and 400 tons of cargo each year. But given how few tourists actually come here from China, the inbound passengers will be anything but civilian. Experts believe the strategic location of the airbase in Tashkurgan works in favor of the Chinese leadership. For instance, China could be concerned about the spread of Islamist movements following the rise of the Taliban, which could fuel more insurgencies in China's restive Xinjiang province. Recently, China, remember, hosted a visiting delegation of Taliban terrorists, praising their future role in the war-torn country. The new airbase in Tashkurgan overlooks the strategic Wakhan corridor in Afghanistan, a narrow territory that separates Tajikistan from Pakistan and POK. The corridor is connected to several geopolitical conflicts, including tension between India and Pakistan over Kashmir. With Ankit Kumar in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.